Let us begin with prayer. Lord of creation, we have so much to be thankful for on this day of commencement. We are grateful for family and friends who supported these students through their years of study and personal growth. We're also grateful for the successes and triumphs that each one here has achieved to make it to this day. We're even thankful for the hardships and challenges that have made these students who they are, perhaps even more so than their successes. We ask that you bless our time together. May it be a joyous, beautiful, and memorable occasion for all. Amen.
Good afternoon and welcome to Mrs. Seibert, Ms. Dougherty, members of the Board of Governors and the Board of Trustees, esteemed guests, faculty, alumni, parents, friends, and the Cranbrook Kingswood Girls Class of 2017. My name is Juliet Raymond, and I was honored to have been chosen by my class to address you this afternoon and to offer some thoughts on what it means for us to graduate today. Lately, I've been thinking about our Cranbrook Kingswood education and how it has encouraged us to grow into confident, mature young women, and how this happens in other cultures. Around the world, young people experience coming-of-age ceremonies, such as the bat mitzvah, the Korean coming-of-age day, the quinceañera, and last but not least, high school graduation. While every culture has different traditions to celebrate growing up, all ceremonies revolve around the twin themes of transition and responsibility. As I was researching coming-of-age ceremonies in different cultures, one that especially resonated with me was the Canal de Ceremony celebrated by the Navajo Indians of the American Southwest. Young Navajo women mark their transition to adulthood through a difficult, multi-day ceremony. Over 4 days, the young woman wears traditional clothing, grinds corn for a ceremonial cake, listens to many ancient and sacred prayers, and completes challenging physical tasks, such as running long distances, maintaining a straight posture for hours, and going without sleep at night. At the end of the Canal de Ceremony, the young woman is believed to have extraordinary strength, and she uses her mystical power to help her communities. Perhaps the most transitional moment of the Canal de Ceremony is the last prayer, which is called the Blessing Way. This prayer calls for the young woman to walk in beauty for the rest of her life by seeing beauty that is all around her and putting to good use the power that dwells on the inside. It took me a while to understand what it meant for a young woman to walk in beauty. Certainly, it could not mean to be concerned with how one looks, nor could it mean to be distant from the real world and its problems. But now, as I am ending my Cranbrook Kingswood journey and transitioning to adulthood, I've begun to understand this expression. To walk in beauty means, first of all, to appreciate the simple everyday moment, and secondly, that to be beautiful takes strength. Beauty is everywhere on this artful campus. You can find physical beauty in the woods and gardens near Cranbrook House, in the statues by the Triton pools, or in the Saarinen architecture of our buildings. However, there is also beauty when you finally understand a difficult concept in your hardest class, solve problems with the help from a caring teacher, share a good laugh with a friend at lunch, or engage in an interesting discussion at a club meeting. Beauty is found in every situation, whether you're facing a demanding struggle or relishing a success. As years go on, we'll find ourselves cherishing these everyday moments and realize that there was always beauty around us at Cranbrook, even if we didn't see it at the time. Beauty is also found in the school's values, which have inspired us to reach for higher, more noble ideals. We've been taught to aim high and enter to learn, go forth to serve. Sounds easy, doesn't it? But growing up, we've learned that sometimes success doesn't come, that hard work can go unnoticed, that justice doesn't always prevail, and that acts of kindness can be unappreciated. The values that Cranbrook Kingswood fosters, such as hard work, responsibility, compassion, and giving back, are beautiful, but they're difficult to live up to. Simply put, adopting these timeless values as one's own personal code requires a constant personal struggle against selfishness, indifference, and laziness, and perseverance when we fall short. Cranbrook Kingswood has taught us how to have strength of character, and being strong, especially amongst young women, is a beautiful thing. The canal de ceremony demands a young woman to demonstrate emotional courage, a giving heart, and physical strength. So, among the Navajo, to walk in beauty means to recognize the nobility in everyday things and to be strong in spirit, mind, and body. Our world needs the same things as us. Though we may not have mystical power to cure the sick, we must realize that we do have an extraordinary power, and that we can use this power to help our communities. Today is an absolutely critical time for young women to find our beauty in being strong and powerful. Courage in the face of adversity is necessary in this politically, economically, and socially tumultuous era. Women's rights are being eroded in some places, and we must challenge that with our dignity, grace, and power. We need to have the strength to fight injustices on the global stage or in small but meaningful ways so that our lives can have greater purpose. To give us strength for our future, I would like to conclude with a few lines of the Blessing Way prayer, which sums up what I hope for each of us as we graduate and take our places in the adult world. Today, as we walk out, may everything evil leave us. May we be as we were before. May we have a cool breeze over our bodies. May we have a light heart. May we be happy forever. May nothing hinder us. May our words be beautiful. Walk with beauty before us, beauty behind us, beauty above us, beauty below us. With beauty all around us, with beauty may we walk. In old age, wandering on a trail of beauty, lively may we walk. It is finished in beauty. It is finished in beauty. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am no stranger to this lectern, but this is a very different situation. So before I begin, I'd like to say some words about Stefan de Klerk. It is never easy to know that you will never see someone again. It is that much harder when such an event occurs suddenly, when you cannot prepare yourself for it. It's even more difficult still when such a thing happens at a time when you are focused on other events, and suddenly you find yourself balancing joy and looking forward with sadness and reflection. Emotions, both joyful and sorrowful, are at the core of our human character. To deny them or try to ignore them is simply impossible. We must grieve, and yet we must also continue in our own paths. So I ask that each of you remember a student and a friend, yet also balance your feelings with the present and the future that each of you holds. So, forward. To the administration of the schools and community, board members, my fellow faculty members, parents and grandparents, and friends of the students, and of course to the aardvarks, the class of 111111000001. Greetings, humans. Computers equal true. This has been a hallmark of mine since my arrival, but it also means much more than that. I should explain that my wife Betsy and I came to Cranbrook Kingswood, actually it was Cranbrook at the time, some 40 years ago. How does one reach 40 years here? It isn't as difficult as you might think. There are, in fact, some half dozen current faculty and administrators who have more years here than I. Indeed, in the Gordon Computer Building, a picture of the campus commemorating my service will be on a wall with pictures of 3 other 40-year faculty which are already there. Again, it's not complicated. You come here and you stay a long time. Easy. When I tell people I'm a teacher, the initial reaction is very positive and engaging. The response is, wow, that's great. What do you teach? And then when I say computer programming, the mood suddenly switches to a much less enthusiastic response, often followed with a change of subject. People often think that I like computers. In fact, I'm not particularly enthusiastic about them. They are sometimes helpful, sometimes not. 2, for me, they are often a source of bother. Because I'm a computer person, I'm often expected to know all types of software on all types of machines. And if I don't, the person who asked me to assist with a particular problem will say, or at least think, gee, I thought you were a computer person. If somehow I do know what the problem is and manage to fix it, well, that's nothing more than what was expected of me. So there you are. Generally, people react to computers in one of 2 ways. Either they marvel at how powerful the computers are and what they can do, or they believe that computers are secretly conspiring amongst themselves to take over the world. Sometimes people hold both of these points of view. I myself am not particularly impressed with what computers can do. A person with a shovel can dig faster than a person using just their hands. Why should it be surprising that a person with an abacus can calculate faster than someone who's using just pencil and paper? It gets kind of scary, though. In human gaming, Computers have held champions in checkers since the turn of the century, around 1995, and in fact now have mapped out all possible checker games. The best that an opponent can hope for is to draw. Also, computers have defeated chess champions. But more interesting yet, the game of Go has very simple rules following the placement of pieces called stones on a board with 361 spaces. The game, however, has more possible moves than there are atoms in the universe. That's from the internet, so it has to be true. This past year, in 2016, a computer program called AlphaGo defeated a nine-dan grandmaster in the game of Go 4 games to 1 in a 5-game set. Just last week, the program defeated the Chinese Go champion by sweeping a 3-game match. And please note, these games were on a full-size board with no player receiving any advantage. How does a computer learn? How does a human teach a computer? Well, if you were teaching a computer to solve algebra equations, you do the same thing that you would with a student. You have them find the value of x, you show them algebraic rules, have them work on many equations. That's why mathematicians love assigning so many homework problems. Practice, you get it. After a very large number of complex examples, the student and the computer both learn what it is you're trying to teach them. So you start with positive reinforcement. If you want to enforce dress codes on students, you reward them when they dress well and give detention when they dress inappropriately. Eventually, most students will learn to dress properly or learn to avoid particular faculty members who give negative reinforcement. Very simple, works both ways. Now, in the case of AlphaGo, you start with millions of board positions from over 100,000 games. Such amounts of data are far beyond any human capability, even in the course of a lifetime, which is where the perfect memory of a computer comes into a strong advantage. Not only are the board positions given to the machine, but also the next move that was chosen and the subsequent outcome of the game. Put it all together, you have a very experienced, very talented player of Go. Also, the hardware required for such a machine is not really all that much. Multiprocessors and lots of memory and all that stuff to be sure, but far short of what might be called a supercomputer. The real power of the program is the ability of the machine to split itself in two, as it were, and play itself as its own opponent. Also, the program seeks the highest probability of a win, regardless of outcome. So it would, for example, choose a 90% probability with only, say, 5-stone advantage over an 85% probability of a win by 30 stones. Many human players intuitively go for the much larger margin of stone rather than the probability of the win. Maybe there are some lessons to be learned there. A recent article in Communications of the ACM pointed out that in learning situations, computers are less arrogant than humans, returning a probability distribution or confidence interval of all possible answers instead of claiming certainty on a particular point. As an example, the author of this particular article input a picture of himself to a program. Now it happens that the author and I look somewhat alike, so he's obviously a very handsome fellow. The program response was human face, 95% confidence, senior citizen, 83%, hairstyle, 75%. He and I have similar hairstyles. The hair is there if you look for it, just kind of hidden away, as it were. The author, however, was wearing a tie-dye t-shirt, which may have caused the professional confidence level to drop to 50%. What I find interesting is all this computer stuff has occurred within a single human lifetime. You know Edison invented the electric light. Alexander Graham Bell won the race to the patent office for the telephone. Who invented the electronic digital computer? In a 1973 federal court ruling, that title was given to one John Vincent Atanasoff, who had created a machine at Iowa State College, now Iowa State University, in the fall of 1939. The matter came to light only because of patent and royalty disputes between two computer companies, one of which, of course, was ENIAC. The news was overshadowed at the time by Watergate and the Saturday Night Massacre. So this fall, the electronic digital computer will have its 78th birthday. Don't forget to celebrate. Today, all kinds of computer viruses are in the news, and much as unrest running around crazy. However, a closer look reveals that many of the viruses and ransomware are exploiting old and vulnerable operating systems. So if you're looking for a takeaway from this talk, here you are. Back up your data to at least 2 places. Use antivirus software. And if you are still using antiquated software, upgrade now. Quite frankly, you are a danger to yourself and to others. Computers can do a lot of stuff, but the real reason that computers are important is that, are you ready? Here comes the word. Sorry, Miss Peacock. Is that irregardless of what you will do in your life, computers will be a part of it. You will work in occupations that don't yet exist, yet I tell you, computers will be part of whatever those occupations are. From the Washington Post last month, at some point in the not-too-distant future, fleets of commercial drones are expected to swarm across the country. Companies in a wide range of industries will employ unmanned vehicles for tactical advantage, inspecting infrastructure, surveying crops, maybe even estimating home costs. And when those drones fly, a torrent of data will follow them like an invisible trail, quote unquote. As Intel Corporation Brian Kisnech says, data is the new oil. The saying, "May you live in interesting times," is often used as a curse. I certainly don't wish anybody ill, but it seems to me living in interesting times is preferable than living a boring existence. Again, quote, irregardless, end quote, we are here, and we have little choice in the matter. So class of 111111000001, don't fear the machine, become its master. Respect its capabilities, but never blindly accept its output. It is a tool like many others you will use in your career. Use it wisely. Thank you.
This afternoon, I have the honor of introducing Jules Knittel Pieri, Kingswood class of 1977. Jules and her classmates, now 40 incredible years on, are remembered fondly by their teachers, some of whom are in this church today, as a group of talented, high-spirited, and independent young women who always kept us on our toes. It comes as no surprise that those qualities are still visible in Jules today. Jules grew up on Detroit's west side in an area called Castle Rouge. The GM diesel plant at the end of her street formed the backdrop for a neighborhood of hardworking people of good character, a community of makers that continues to have a strong influence on her life. Her mom was a bank teller and her dad a tool maker. Jules was always a strong student, and when she was finishing junior high school, her teacher suggested to her parents that she would benefit from attending a school like Kingswood. For many reasons, her parents were not comfortable with the idea. Jules decided to apply to the Kingswood boarding program without their permission. And when she was accepted, she was terrified to tell them. Eventually, she convinced her parents to let her attend Kingswood. Jules recalled that the grant of $3,100 that she received to help cover the $3,900 tuition made all the difference. During her time at Kingswood, Jules enjoyed the camaraderie of dorm living and served as an RA. She was a varsity softball player, although, according to Jules, not a very good one. She recounted how, on one of the rare occasions when her parents' work schedules allowed them to attend her game, she was so excited to see them that she got distracted and was knocked down by what she describes as a screaming fast one to the forehead during pregame warm-ups. After going to the infirmary, Jules spent the game on the bench. Jules especially loved art and filled her schedule with classes in woodshop, drawing, jewelry, and ceramics. She particularly enjoyed weaving and spent countless hours in Miss Hardy's studio during her junior and senior years. Jules loved her time at Kingswood and proved to be an exceptional student. As a senior, she earned cum laude designation and won an Auger Pin for outstanding scholarship. Upon graduation, she attended the University of Michigan. Although not her original plan, Jules believes that the Booth and Saarinen legacies guided her decision to double major in graphic and industrial design. Jules continued her education at Harvard Business School, where she was the first designer to earn an MBA. Rather than moving to Wall Street, Jules chose to work for the startup Design Continuum, now called Continuum, a global design and innovation consultancy, where she became a vice president. In the late 80s, the idea of working for a startup wasn't as embedded in popular culture as it was today, or as it is today. Yet Jules was always ready for out-of-the-box thinking, and her job at Continuum introduced her to it. After a variety of other senior executive positions at companies like KED, StrideRite, and PlaySchool, and moving with her family to Dublin, Ireland for 4 years, Jules became president of Ziggs Incorporated, an early competitor to LinkedIn, and her second startup. While Ziggs didn't win the battle for top professional networking site, it is where Jules learned about social media, and that was a key acquisition that led to the creation of her third startup. Jules is co-founder and CEO of The Grommet. In her work at other companies, it had always bothered Jules that big box retail decided which products made it to market. She knew that ordinary people might have the technology to create unique and great products, but they needed business support. This inspired Jules and her partner to create The Grommet, a product launch platform that has discovered and introduced consumers to new products, many that you know, such as Fitbit and SodaStream. The company is now 8 years old, and each week it launches 7 new products. The Grommet also creates a place for people to buy products that support their values, such as sustainability, craft preservation, and philanthropy. They call this collective buying power citizens' commerce, and Jules sees her company as a true agent for the maker movement. Because of her innovative ideas and great successes, Jules became an entrepreneur in residence at Harvard Business School. She has also been recognized as one of the 10 most powerful women entrepreneurs by Fortune magazine, and was named one of 2014's 100 most intriguing entrepreneurs by Goldman Sachs. MITx presented the Grommet with their coveted Disruptive Genius Company Award in 2016, and the list of awards goes on. Yet, after all of her recognitions and business dealings, Jules believes that going to school at Kingswood had the most profound effect on her life. Remembering the grant that she received to help with her tuition, Jules says, "Although I have raised tens of millions of dollars from investors as an entrepreneur, the first $3,100 was the most important investment anyone ever made in me." Please join me in welcoming Jules Knittel Pieri.
I look at this sea of beautiful women, and I know someday you'll have a lifetime of accomplishments, and it's starting right here. And Claudia, you were so gracious in that introduction. But I'm telling you the God's honest truth that this, being here, sharing your day, is the most meaningful honor of my life. Thank you for inviting me. The first 2 weeks at Kingswood, I'd wake up, rub my eyes, look across the room at my roommate, still a stranger, and I'd remember with a jolt I wasn't home. Then I'd get a rush of adrenaline. I slept in one of those 2 rooms that are just off the auditorium lobby behind that door, and believe it or not, that door didn't exist back then. There was no lock. There was no lock on our doors either. Visitors off the street could have just wandered in. But that's not why I was nervous or felt adrenaline. We actually never locked the doors in my tiny Detroit home either at that time. As I rose and stumbled to the bathroom, my anxiety climbed. I found my stomach rising up to my throat. I started imagining my day, the bus trip to Cranbrook, the science class full of remedial freshmen, nerdy freshmen, the embarrassment that I had to take a remedial class anyway. Our teacher, Frank Norton, with his chunky sweaters and his coffee breath. And mostly, I had to face my fears that I wasn't going to cut it, that I wasn't the right material for this rigorous academic institution. I wanted to throw up every single morning. But today, I know that dealing with my churning stomach at age 14 was the most important experience of my life. It set me up for every courageous thing I ever did. I know that each of you in this room, and you seniors, have experienced some version of this nausea yourself, and you do also have the ability to ride it to the other side. But backing up from that, there are 2 things that, if mastered, are likely to keep you on the side of happy, not sad. The first is, how do you make important decisions? And second, how do you take action on those important decisions? Now, those questions sound super basic, but the happiest adults I know actually really think about them. So how do you make important decisions? Well, fundamentally, you have to know what qualifies as an important decision, and that is super simple. Those are just the decisions that relate to your top life goals. Sometime during this special week, I'd like you to think out what your top 3 life goals are. Just 3. They're likely to change through the decades, but they'll be the ones that matter to you. You don't want to waste energy on what to have for breakfast. And believe it or not, where you go to college is not likely to be one of the most important decisions of your life. My 3 goals happen to have been solidified right here at Cranbrook, and they never changed, because mine happen to be ones that can never be completed. So for me, what are they still today? First, I wanted to get out of town and see the world. I had a very stable but kind of boring childhood, and I craved adventure. My first step, as mentioned, was sneaking behind my parents' backs to apply here. I know, really rebellious, right? But it was nothing against them. I was just sick of the bullies and the drugs and the chairs sailing over my head in my Detroit public school, and I wanted good education. Thanks to that caring teacher, I found out about Kingswood and slunk downstairs to that knotty pine paneling wall in my parents' basement and whispered that call. I've had many more versions of that leap of faith phone call, including the time when we did move our family to Dublin in 2001, 3 sons in all. We did not know a soul, we did not have jobs, we had no family connections. And the move was fraught with risks and many roadblocks, and it almost fell apart several times. And one day, I just looked in the mirror and said, how will I feel about this when I'm 80 years old? And I made it happen. I rarely regret things I actually do. It's just the ones I did not do that can turn into regret. My second life goal was to become a Wikipedia entry. Now, of course, I wouldn't have said that back here, it didn't exist. But I meant I wanted to make a mark. And when I was in those Detroit elementary schools, the teachers used to send me to the library when I finished my work, and I consumed every biography and autobiography on offer. And people like Juliet Gordon-Low and Abraham Lincoln and Eleanor Roosevelt, they planted lofty ideas in my head. I had no specific idea how I'd make my mark. Write a book, invent a nonprofit, maybe a product from my neighborhood, maybe a spectacular crime. I had no idea. And for a couple of decades, I seriously worried I wasn't achieving that goal. For years, I built my career. I had babies, and believe me, that's something the library trips did not prepare me for. But along the way, I discovered the power of business. Although design was my first enduring professional love, business is actually my true craft. And I founded the company, Grommet, at age 47, and I thought it was really old to be starting a company. Who do you see on the cover of magazines? Mark Zuckerberg, not soccer moms, the people who look like me. But it turns out that 47 is the average age to start a company. So never, ever let yourself feel that life is passing you by. In fact, one of the most popular grommets, most successful grommets ever invented was created by a grandmother who has at least 25 years on me. And as Claudia mentioned, I founded the grommet for a very simple reason. I saw a wrong that had to be righted. I saw that we were losing the independent and the specialty and the mom and pop level of retail that gives innovation a chance. And I ultimately realized that I could start a business to level the playing field. As Claudia mentioned, we've been for 8 years launching inspired and brilliant products. And what we launch on Monday could very well be that kind of product, a Fitbit or a Bananagrams, after our community grabs a hold of it. My third and final goal was to be a good person. Bear with me, that sounds super generic, but my definition of good is actually super simple. It's about showing up. I remember sitting my college graduation, and the speaker said, look to the left, look to the right. You think you will be friends with these people the rest of your life, and you can be, but you have to show up for the birthdays and the breakups and the weddings and the illnesses and the funerals. It is never convenient to show up for other people. They don't schedule their crises or their celebrations around you. Show up anyway. Do it. In 1998, when my business mentor, a woman I worked for in 3 companies, Meg Whitman, asked me to follow her to eBay, where she was becoming CEO, I didn't show up. It was because I was in the middle of planning a 40th anniversary party for my parents, and my dad was not well, and I feared he wouldn't make it to their 50th. And I knew if I moved my family of 5 to California that I couldn't get that party off the ground. My dad died the next year, and I never, for a minute, regretted that trade-off. So now you know my goalposts. Pursue adventure, strive to make a mark, and be a good person by showing up. Now here's the real secret to making important decisions and reaching your goalposts. It is important to clarify them, but what really matters next is your ability to walk through the fear that often accompanies an important decision. The worst advice in the world is, if it feels right, do it. If you're like me, hard decisions often feel awful. I can still get butterflies in a churning stomach. I'm sweating up here. When I make these choices to do hard things, I can still feel like that 14-year-old girl in that tan tile bathroom. But I remember where that bad feeling got me, and I soldier on. Too many people are unwilling to live through the discomfort on the other side of daring decisions. If I can give you any concrete tip, it is to try to figure out what is your physical signal. Something I would call a tell. When you're facing something difficult or scary, we all have one. Do you get insomnia? Do you have a headache? Do you have an elevated heartbeat? Do you eat compulsively? Do you stop eating? Our bodies are wonderful beacons. They can tell us when we're at an important growth edge. And if you work with your own tell, you will develop an amazing reserve of confidence to say hello. There you are again. There's my tell. Drill down to the source of your fear and play out the worst case scenario. And I mean that. Play it out. Play it out to the farthest, terrible, awful extreme. What is the worst thing that could possibly happen? In the case of starting a company, my loving brother, Dennis, who is here today, asked, what if it fails? He was worried about me. And I paused, and I said, well, I won't get totally blackballed from employment. I'll just get a job. Your brain's exploration of the worst case scenario is the antidote to your churning gut. And every time you do that, every time you move to a new city, you try out for a team, you ask for a promotion, you make a speech, you embrace that fear in your physical tell. This then fortifies the most important part of your body, your confidence muscle. When I was building the grommet, the first 4 years felt like an endless game of survival. We launched at the worst possible time, just as the economic crisis hit in October 2008. I probably set a world record for rejections by important venture capital investors. It was the most difficult thing I've ever done. At one point in 2010, I needed a minor medical procedure that required being put under general anesthesia for 1 hour. And I looked forward to that day like it was a trip to Hawaii. Even today, I can still feel a small rush of fear-based adrenaline nearly every Monday morning. But if I could not get past that, past my own stomach and my own well-founded fears, I would not be standing here today on one of the most momentous occasions of your life. And I would not have created hundreds of jobs for other people to realize their dreams. The more you face discomfort without judgment or avoidance, the more fearlessly you live. You walk unencumbered, free to take risks, free from illusion, free to be bold, free to keep growing and learning. In closing, do me one final favor. Close your eyes, and I really mean it, close your eyes. Do a mental scan of a time when you were really scared about choosing something or doing something, and remember the physical sensation. Lock down on that right now. Now open your eyes. Remember it and tell yourself that memory is a gift. That feeling is your tell, that you are on a growth edge. It's your secret weapon. Use that tell. Embrace it every time it appears, and do great things with it. I'm counting on you.
Thank you, Jules. It is at this point in our program that we welcome back our alumni. As I call your name, will you please stand and remain standing until all names are called? Our distinguished alumna, Jules Knittel Pieri, CEC trustees, Wayne Lyon, 1950, Jameson Williams Feliski, 1986, Robert Wilson, 1976. School governors and governors emeriti, Don Slotkin, 1954, Brian Hermelin, 1983, Philip Hall, 1984, Matthew Trunsky, 1984, Lauren Carr-Frond, 2001, Kristen Biardi, 2002. The class of 1957 celebrating their 50th reunion, Ann Coughlin Collins, Sally Osterberry Dinnan, Connie Kellogg Casey, Jean Hargraves Graham. Class of 1977 for their 40th reunion, Alison Porter McAdams, Julie Rodecker. From our other reunion classes, Erin Porter, class of 1978, Anna Mallet, class of 2016. Not that old yet. Our alumni, parents, and grandparents of graduating seniors, Michael Howard Williams, 1960, Ralph Margulis, 1968, Gregory Wisaki, 1975, Tom Howlett, 1980, Robert Gordon, 1981, Karen Lyon Glover, 1982, Howard Brophy, 1983, David Popa, 1984, John Harb, 1985, Margie Brophy Kowal, 1985. You're supposed to remain standing, you guys. I'm still the teacher here. Linda Rosenberg, 1985. Todd Fink, 1986. Terry Morosky, 1986. J.J. Modell, 1990. Our alumni siblings, we have many alumni who are brothers and sisters of graduates here today. May I ask all of our alumni siblings to please stand. Our alumni faculty and staff, Dr. Darrell Taylor, 1970, Linda Mastone, 1977, Susan Akins Post, 1978, Marie Shabilsky, 1984, David Cohen, 1990, Jacob Hazard, 1992, Susan Strickland Muskovitz, 1997. Our honorary alumni, Deborah Rutzen, Charles Shaw, Arla Seibert. And at this time, I would like to ask all other alumni whose names I did not receive in advance to please stand. And some of them who are most recent graduates. Will you join me in welcoming our alumni back? At this time, I would also like to recognize our faculty speaker, Rich Lamb, who's celebrating 40 years with Cranbrook Schools. Will you join me in recognizing him?
The faculty has discharged its duties to the Director of Schools. We have determined that all of these members of the class of 2017 have met the requirements for graduation. On behalf of the faculty, I recommend to you, Mrs. Seibert, the class of 2017 for the awarding of diplomas.
Adrian Hannah Adams. Yola Alicia Annabelle. Sarah Nizam Anwar. Suha Kalsan Azadullah. Torin Jane Atkins. Cecil McGill Beatty. Zoe Julia Baxter. Mackenzie Renaud Beckett. Zuzana Maria Belska, in absentia. Ailsa Mary Turner Bentley, cum laude. Jaden K. Bertuzzi. Paige Marie Brand. Claire Marie Brophy. Shitzi Chen, cum laude. Julia Chen. Yu Zhou, cum laude. Tess Patricia Coleman. Elena Anik Delval. Alexis Ann Dietz. Elif Naz Dinser, in absentia. Mary Ann Dolan. Claire Tiffin Donegan. Frances Rising Dubé. Anna McKinsey Dukowitz. Elizabeth Ann Fairman. Michael N. Jameson Feliski. Julia Jean Fjord, cum laude. Madeline N. Fink, cum laude. Isabella Simone Harriet Garrett. Grayson Rose Gilbert. Drew Demi Glazer. Allison Janelle Glover. Olivia Hannah Gordon, cum laude. Ava Shiraz Harb. Alexandra Grace Hefner. Isabel Jane Hermelin. Jenna Sarah Himmelho. Kelly Christine Ho. Tessa Ann Howlett. Lena Ali Khan. Hiso Kim, cum laude. Catherine Ann Cole. Rachel Lauren Kresner. Divya Suri Kudapa, cum laude. Jennifer Alexa Kaiko. Ngo Sarah Lee. Yalem Christina Lee. Amy Catherine Lucas. Hannah Rachel Mail. Kayla May Molly, cum laude. Erin Renee Margulis. Sydney Denise Martin. Emily Ann Marvar. Margaret Mary McMurray. Lacey Marina Modell. Anna Rose Mogul. Elise Louine Mondragon. Kaylee Joy Morosky. Jillian Emma Morse. Monisha Jasmine Murray. Nu Hong Nguyen, cum laude. Adelina Mikkel Niney. Izioma Ashi Asubar, cum laude. Alexis Page Pappas. Reina Patel. Lauren In Kim Young Pham, cum laude. Emma Shimmei Panakal. Isabella Marie Popa. Michelle Hope Rowie. Juliette Desiree Raymond. Laura Elizabeth Rode, cum laude. Madeline Hannah Rosenberg. Elif Nil Sebek. Alia Aiming Tezeb Shazad, cum laude. Sarah Ann Shoemaker, cum laude. Mackenzie Marie Smith. Francis Van Rensselaer Swift. Olivia Renee Tomatich. Lynn Con Tran, cum laude. Joya Lovelace van Staden. Xin Yi Wang, cum laude. Guabibi Wang, cum laude. Courtney Joy Wright. Amalia Sloan Wysocki. Ru Shin Yao, cum laude. Mirei Ellen Yamamoto, cum laude. Maria Zaccarini. Bing Pu Zhao, cum laude. Ron Shuen Zhou, cum laude. Before I congratulate them, one correction on my part. Sara Nizam Anwar, cum laude, and Reina Patel, cum laude. Ladies, congratulations to the class of 2017.
We rise for the singing of America.
On behalf of the class of 2018, I accept this flag and will endeavor to carry out the duties, responsibilities, and traditions which this flag symbolizes.
We invite the members of the board, faculty, and alumni to join the graduates in the singing of the school song.
To
Let us pray. God of heaven and earth, we're all joyful about these young women and their accomplishments. Yet many of us are also experiencing a loss and sadness. Bring our community closer together. Help us to be joyful with those who are joyful and to mourn with those who are mourning. May we always comfort, encourage, and celebrate one another. Lord, we send these young people out from our community of Cranbrook Kingswood, and we ask for your blessing. As they aim high and go forth to serve, help them not to neglect those who are often named as lowly, the poor, the marginalized, and those who are suffering. Give us all discerning eyes and ears to help others, especially those we might normally neglect or fail to notice. Give each student safety, direction, and courage. Help them to use everything they've learned and become over their years here to the very best of their abilities. Bless parents and families as well. Give them peace in this time of transition. Graciously provide students and parents with divine wisdom to navigate the future that awaits. Finally, we also ask for a restful and rejuvenating summer for all students, parents, staff, and faculty. Empower us all to being a blessing to others in everything that we say and do. Amen.
We now invite the guests to please stand.